Hello everyone, today I will be talking about the wisdom of King Solomon, his rise, and ultimate falling away from God. Without further ado, let's get started. The story starts with Solomon calling for a sword, after which, he declares his judgment, that the baby would be cut in two, each woman to receive half. One mother did not contest the ruling, declaring that if she could not have the baby then neither of them could, but the other begged Solomon, give the baby to her, just don't kill him. The moral of Solomon's judgment for today might well be that a parent willing to sacrifice a child in order to win a power struggle is unlikely to be an adequate parent. Those of us with a bit of the responsibility and hopefully a bit of the wisdom of King Solomon would do well to point that out. In the Testament of Solomon, a pseudepigraphal text, Solomon received a magical ring from the archangel Michael, granting him the power to command demons and supernatural forces, which he used to build the temple. The demons have no power over God, they can only tempt his people to fall away from him. The first story we encounter is Solomon with the ants. He is marching with his army of birds, jinn and humans in ranks. They are organized in every aspect, and they are completely impressive. He then comes across ants that see him coming and he is able to communicate with them. In the 1st century text called the Testament of Solomon, it tells the story of how Solomon summoned various demons using a ring that was given to him by the archangel Michael. The demons were all put to task building the first temple in Jerusalem. The tale ends with Solomon falling in love with a woman and agrees to make sacrifices to the god Moloch in exchange for sex. It all goes wrong however because Solomon chose to sacrifice only 5 locusts by crushing them in the palm of his hand. At that moment the spirit of God leaves him and he is left ridiculed by both humans and demons. The moral of the story is don't sacrifice your beliefs for something as trivial as sex. In the story of Solomon, as depicted in the Testament of Solomon, after Solomon used his supernatural ring to control demons, they tempted him and the Spirit of God departed from him. And he became foolish. The Lesser Keys of Solomon written by one Aleister Crowley is used as a form of perversion of the seals given to Solomon, used in such ways in order to summon evil rather than neutralize it or cast it away. Such is the case today, with many high-ranking religious leaders using these seals in order to gain power in the modern world thanks to Buddhists, and others, teachings of duality and the moral emancipation from good and evil through unclean spirits. Though pagan gods were rampant at the time, through the seal of Solomon, they were neutralized and are casted away by God's children as a result of the appearance of Jesus Christ. However, Jesus says that the demons would be released at the close of this age as Satan will be granted access to rule over the world for a short time. This would also probably happen through deception and perversion of teachings. By these events taking place, God's people are to be salvaged by his sacrifice and redeemed by his second coming, when Jesus separates the goat from the sheep, one final time. The result of modern witchcraft is a result of the seals being in the hands of King Solomon, the one who fell away from God by his own free will and accord due to persuasion, temptation and deception. This shows that even the greatest of kings fall short of the glory of God and the only one who never did was the Son of Man who gave his life for us in purity so that we no longer succumb to the blood of the world through his teachings and ultimately, his sacrifice. The building of King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem is a significant element in the allegory and symbolism used in Freemasonry, though the connection is primarily symbolic and ritualistic, not historical. The rituals are not practiced in good faith, but rather a mockery is made out of them to symbolize one's own liberty and free will. Here's a more detailed explanation. According to the Bible, King Solomon, the son of King David, built the first temple in Jerusalem, a grand structure dedicated to the worship of God while the high priests actually became agents of Satan. The construction of Solomon's temple is a central theme in Freemasonry, particularly in the craft, or Blue Lodge, degrees. The temple's building, the figures involved, like Hiram Abiff, the chief architect, and the materials used, like cedar and stone, are all part of the Masonic ritual and symbolism. While Hiram Abiff isn't a name found directly in the Bible, the figure of Hiram, a skilled craftsman and associate of King Solomon, is mentioned in the Old Testament, particularly in 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, and is often associated with Freemasonry. Here's a more detailed explanation. Biblical Hiram, the Old Testament mentions a Hiram, a Tyrian craftsman, who was sent by King Hiram of Tyre to assist King Solomon in building the temple in Jerusalem. Hiram's role: Hiram supplied skilled laborers, cedar wood, and other materials to King David for the construction of his palace in Jerusalem and later to King Solomon for the temple. Freemasonry and Hiram: Freemasons often associate Hiram with the construction of the temple and use the story of his death as a moral lesson. During his ministry, Jesus visited the temple in Jerusalem, where he famously cleansed it by driving out merchants and money changers, declaring it should be a house of prayer, not a den of thieves. Here's a more detailed look at Jesus' interactions with the temple. Cleansing the temple: Jesus entered the temple courtyard and saw it filled with merchants and money changers. who were profiting from the pilgrims who had come to Jerusalem for Passover. He made a whip of cords and drove out all the animals, overturned the tables of the money changers, and told the sellers of doves to take their things away. Jesus declared that his Father's house should not be a house of merchandise, but a house of prayer. Solomon's fall from grace with God, as described in 1 Kings 11, stemmed from his acquisition of numerous foreign wives and concubines, who turned his heart away from the Lord and towards the worship of their own gods. The biblical narrative suggests that King Solomon, despite initially being favored by God, ultimately turned away from him, engaging in idolatry and other actions that displeased God. While Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil too, and after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." For Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." And the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." The devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. 9. "This I will give you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan. For it is written, worship the Lord your God, and serve him only." The devil left him, and angels came and attended him. In Matthew 6:29, Jesus says, "Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these," comparing the beauty of the lilies of the field to the splendor of Solomon, implying that even the greatest earthly glory pales in comparison to God's provision. The heritage of the very temple that God had given authority unto Solomon to build contradicted the teachings of the Messiah by way of corruption and greed. It is written, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." And not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name?" And then will I declare to them, "I never knew you, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness."